Here we Welcome everybody to another episode of the Flow Protocols. It has been a minute and a half. My name is Kat Howell, and today I am joined by the beautiful and wonderful Charlotte Dabatt. We were just laughing beforehand because French is actually my first language and Charlotte is French. But I was like, I don't think I can do this interview in French. So here we are. And today we're going to be having a conversation about how to build and run a business when you are neurodivergent. So, Charlotte, do you want to start off by explaining? I think it was about a year ago or something, you were officially diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Is that correct?
So I was diagnosed more recently, actually. I was diagnosed about 6 months ago. So I had started my business way before that. I started this business at the beginning of 2023, and I was diagnosed early 2024. So I had already built this business when I learned that I was neurodivergent, but I had my suspicions for about 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So
Prior to that, you were a media buyer. You were working in that's how we got connected, right? You were
yeah.
building up a client base and you'd built a pretty successful media buying business for yourself. And then you made a pivot into manifestation, which I love,
Yeah.
right? All about that magic, which was 2023, you're saying. And you grew quite a big following on TikTok. Like that just blew up. And before we get into the neurodivergency aspect, what I would love for you to share is how you decided TikTok was your platform, because I love this story.
Well, I actually used the pendulum. I knew I wanted to post on social media. I just didn't know which platform would be most aligned. So because you had taught me to use the pendulum, I was like, well, let's give it a try and see what is most aligned. And it said TikTok, which was very funny because I had never used TikTok in my life. And it's a platform that I said I would never use
Yeah.
personally. But when Pendulum showed me that it was the most aligned one, I said, well, let's listen to it and let's just do it. And very quickly, I grew an audience, and now I'm at over 100,000 followers. So yeah, and it grew really fast. So I was really, really happy about that. And I also grew a pretty large audience on Facebook as well.
Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. I love hearing like the magical uses and how they help us find alignment.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how you suspected for a couple years that you potentially had a colorful neurodivergent brain. What were some of the the not symptoms, but some of the things that were showing up that made you suspect this?
Well, I think I've always felt different in some way. I just didn't know why I felt that way. And I also always kind of felt like I was playing a role in many situations. Like I could not be fully myself, but again, I could not explain it to myself. And I also had a lot of struggles that I was hiding as much as I could, and hardly anyone knew about it in my life because I was so ashamed of it and I felt guilty about it. Like, and I tried to fix myself for a very, very long time. And at one point, I don't know how it started, but I think it was because of some videos on social media about people talking about a neurodivergent experience. And I was like, these people make sense. Like,
I feel
finally,
like,
yeah, finally, these people understand the way I view the world and the way I feel about it and my expert. And it's like they were talking about myself. And that's when it started clicking. And then I did a whole lot of research about the subject, listened to a lot of people talking about it. And finally, earlier this year, I had reached a point where I was like, okay, I need to get an official answer. So I went to get diagnosed, and yeah, it was it felt so much relief when I heard, yes, you're autistic, yes, you have ADHD. I was like, oh my God, I cried because finally it explained the struggles that I had been through and why I felt so different, you know?
Yeah, space of self-acceptance. So what were
Yeah.
some of those struggles that were showing up? Like, how is that manifesting itself?
Oh my God. Well, wanting to do things but not being able to, that's the big one.
Because
Just
overthinking.
feeling, yeah, overthinking, but also just like feeling completely stuck. I think it's something difficult to explain. Like you want to do something, you know you have to do it, but you just can't do it. And also when I was employed, I was completely freaking out. And I didn't understand why, because other people didn't seem to feel that way. But to me, it was like being in jail, and I hated hierarchy and being in an office, and I was so overwhelmed with all the noise, the lights, and having to socialize with people. And it was just an absolute nightmare for me. And just having to pretend like having that smiling face and just like what's called masking. And it was just absolutely exhausting for me.
Yeah, I am not officially diagnosed, but I suspect I, like most entrepreneurs, have ADHD. And what I have become very aware for myself is I get very overstimulated really quickly. So shopping malls just drain
Yeah.
me so much of energy if I'm in a if I'm in a bar or something and I'm not taking drugs. Forget about it. I can't do it. And so I've just had to really honor that. But maybe part of that is also getting old. So once you got diagnosed, obviously there was a
Mm.
big sense of relief. And how did that start changing the
Mm.
way you operated in your business?
Well, I think, first of all, I had built this business around my needs before I even knew I was neurodivergent. So from the start, like I started making a good income pretty fast, and I was working like 1.5, 2 days a week, which was ideal for me. So I had more than enough time to rest and just pursue other activities that I was interested in and my interests. Yeah. And since I got the diagnosis, I wouldn't say much has changed because it was already built around what I needed. But what has changed is the way I view myself. I had so much guilt, so much shame, so much, I would say even self-hate and self-abuse. And since then, I've learned how to have more compassion for myself, more love. Also, just if I can't do something, then I don't feel shame about that. I know that it's my body and my mind telling me, well, you need to you need to rest, and it's not your fault, you know. And also, I mean, we I know like neurodivergence is like kind of a nice word in a way, but these are actually disabilities. And this is something that is a little bit difficult to accept for me, but at the same time, it also gives me the permission to accept myself, even if that means that for a whole week I won't be able to do anything. And I know that's okay. It's frustrating, yes. But I know that it's part of me, and it means that I just need to take care of myself, and that's the priority. So yeah, more compassion for myself.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's still a journey because obviously in 36 years of life, I've integrated a lot of negative self narratives, and I'm trying to um, create a new version of myself where I just feel love for myself. And that has started already, but I know it's going to be a journey.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a journey for a lot of us,
Mm,
loving
mm,
on ourselves and self-acceptance. But it's beautiful that at least now you're not as judgmental to yourself, right?
mhm.
So, and
Yeah.
also that you had built a business with a lot of freedom before you even had
Mhm.
the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
for people that are looking or are in businesses right now or looking to start a business, what would be some of the structures or things that they could put in place so that it honored this neurodivergent brain?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I can only speak from my experience. The first thing I knew that was absolutely essential for me was that I needed to create a digital product, because obviously, as an autistic person, I don't like having too much interactions with others. So I knew that it was the best thing, but I just didn't know what that would be. And at some point after I started creating content, I just had an idea about a digital product that I could sell. It was something that I created for myself initially. And I just put it online and immediately I made sales. So I think for neurodivergent people, obviously, the best way is to have a business where your income is not dependent on you interacting with others, or it's not dependent on your time either. Otherwise, it can be quite difficult to manage, and you may not have enough time to just rest and take care of yourself. But I know that obviously, if you're already an entrepreneur and you already have a business that is not selling digital products, then it may be difficult. However, I actually have a friend of mine who is also neurodivergent, who's currently feeling overwhelmed with his business because it's very tied to his time. And he actually just started a TikTok and is starting to sell digital products after we had a conversation. So I think there is always a way
Yeah.
to start something that is aligned with us. And for me, that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, that was a big part of my own learning curve was I was very much subscribed in the earlier years of my entrepreneurial career because of the way I was raised mostly, but the hustle and just go, go, go. And I just shamed myself so much when I would hit these periods where I had no energy and I couldn't even do a single thing on my to-do list. And I'm now at a stage in my life and in my business career where I understand those rest and recovery phases are actually so vital. They're so important, and they're usually that cryolysis phase before, the new energy comes through or the new energy emerges and the transformation. But it is really hard sometimes to honor that because I think our society measures success of the society by gross domestic production, which is literally like productivity. If you're not productive in a society, you don't fucking deserve to be a part of it, right? So it's
Mhm.
hardwired into so many of us. And I would say that belief was almost harder for me to shift, like that over shifting out of that overwhelm than, I can make money. That was much easier for me to believe in than that I don't need to work all the time. I can rest.
Mhm.
I don't have to
Mhm.
be on all the time. That was really difficult for me to detach from. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that something
Yeah.
that you noticed for yourself as well?
Yeah, definitely. I used to think before, I think probably like 3 or 4 years ago, that having a business meant being completely overworked and that you could not. I didn't even think I could enjoy working, actually. I thought that it was absolutely
Suffer.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had to suffer and that it would be the only way. And I just knew that having a business would be the best option compared to having a regular job. But I didn't think that it would be possible to have a business that would be built around my needs and a business that would serve me and not the other way around. And I proved to myself that it's actually possible. And yeah, I think the best way to do that is follow or pleasure, follow a flow. And that's what I did. And I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea. But I just gave it a try, and I thought if it works, it works. So I had nothing to lose at that point. I was so burnt out from working in the media buying space. And so, yeah, I knew it had to work. I really had that phase. I was like, it has to work. There's no other way.
Yeah, sometimes it's a good thing when we get to that, that burnout, because it forces us to make those shifts and reevaluate and to go, I can't do this anymore. I need to rebuild this in a way that suits me. And I'm a big believer that our business is our bitch and it has to work around us. It has to serve us. But I think, yeah, it's very common, this belief that, or what we tend to see as entrepreneurs, are slaves to their business, not the other way around. They're slaves to their business and the calendars and then you get in a really difficult situation that can be very difficult to unravel. So are you finding that there's a lot of discussions around this happening online now around, entrepreneurship and neurodivergency, or building a business around this kind of?
So I think that at least I've seen a lot of podcasts in English talking about neurodivergence. Obviously, some of them speaking a little bit about neurodivergence and business, but not that many. But in the French market, like in France, I have hardly seen anything. There's a few podcasts, a few videos here and there about neurodivergence, but they all look boring from what I've seen. Yeah, no, it did look boring. And so I didn't even listen to it, but because it just didn't look very interesting. And I didn't see anything about neurodivergent entrepreneurs. And also, I haven't seen anything either about building a business around or flow around our needs in French at all. So maybe there is one. I don't know. I haven't looked all over the internet, but I haven't seen anything so far. And I wonder why.
Well, I think maybe the Western or the English world, maybe it's very new though as well, right? I would say like when I was a kid, I don't even think ADHD was a word. I never heard of it until like probably 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, it's very recent.
PTSD, right? We didn't even know PTSD was a thing in the 1990s, and now it's very much recognized. And so it's very fresh, it's very recent, but it is gaining a lot of momentum because I feel like a lot of people are going, oh shit, just like lactose intolerance. I think a lot of us, apparently in the world, most of us are lactose intolerant. And that was not something we knew of. We were told drink milk, and now people are like,
Yeah.
why I get pimples all the time, or I'm breaking out. Makes sense. So I think a lot of these concepts are very fresh, but gaining a lot of momentum. And they, having your voice in this space is probably something that's very, very much needed at this time, because there's probably it's probably not separated by geography. There's no neurodivergent French people. I don't believe that at all. It's just that
we're everywhere, I'm sure.
everywhere. Right? And so it's probably got a lot of people in France or in French speaking countries that are also shaming themselves, or also feeling very guilty about, the business or operating. So what would be some tips that you would share to somebody who is coming to this crossroad of realization, like, oh, I have this neurodivergent brain and I also want to build a business?
So someone who's just thinking, starting to think about this, well, I would say first of all, it takes courage. You need to have courage to actually start doing something in the direction of your dreams. So, but start with something you love. Don't try to think, is it going to work? Am I going to be able to make money out of it? Just start doing something you like. It could be like posting something on social media, creating a blog, whatever, whatever you want to create, but just start small. And then as long as you love what you're doing, you will find your audience, and you will find people who will resonate with it as well. And then even if you don't know what you're going to sell or how you're going to make money, you will be shown at some point what you need to do, and you will receive ideas. And that's exactly what happened to me. And thanks to you, I know that when we follow what or flow, what makes us feel good, then it always leads us to what we desire. So yeah, that's the biggest tip I could give you, because I think that's the most important one. Don't overthink it too much and just start getting into action, and the path will be shown bit by bit.
I love that. Stepping into that courage, but it has
Mm.
to be something you're excited about. Otherwise, you won't
Mhm.
find the courage for it. You'll
Yeah,
get stuck at
yeah.
that crossroads, right? And as you
Mhm.
said, also building a digital product. This is something that's just been opened up to us in the last 20 years. It's a whole new
Mhm.
world for so many people where we get to monetize and create income streams with very little touch points, human to human.
Mhm.
You still build a following, you still have comments and stuff, but
Mhm.
can be a lot less overstimulating if you're
Mhm.
neurodivergent. So thinking of the funnels that you're building
Mhm.
and how they honor you, you don't,
Mhm.
if you're scared or if it's too overwhelming to get one-on-one, just do digital products. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, I think for me at least, selling digital products is ideal, because otherwise I know that I would feel overwhelmed. And I'm not saying that is the best thing for every neurodivergent person, obviously, but I know that for me, yeah, it's ideal, and I'm sure that a lot of people would resonate with that. And it doesn't take much to create. Like, you can start small and create something, test it, and then see what sticks. And you can try again if that doesn't work. And there's plenty of ways to sell digital products online. So yeah.
I love it. So, Charlotte, where can people connect with you and what's next for you?
So people can find me. Well, I have my TikTok page, and I have also, I think it would be best on Facebook, at Être Magnétique.
Mhm.
So you can find me there. And what's next for me? Well, that's a good question. What I am planning to do actually is I want to help other neurodivergent entrepreneurs to build a business around their needs, around their brain, and I want to help them stop being overwhelmed. I want to help them listen to themselves and just build a business that meet their needs, because a business is supposed to serve us and not the other way around. And I found a way to do this, and I know that others can do it too. So
Such an important conversation. And I know a lot of people listening are probably going, that's me. So if you're resonating with this message, go and check out Charlotte, connect with her. I will post a link to her Facebook under the show notes of this podcast episode. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Such a beautiful conversation. So amazing to see you grow and pivot and come into this self-awareness and self-acceptance. I know you help lead a lot of people in this space, which is very much needed. So
Thanks, Kat.
thanks for tuning into another episode of the Flow Protocols, and I will see you guys on the next one.